Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoterica, and on this week's episode we're answering the question of whether or not you should buy a 3DO M2 or a Konami M2 arcade board, because I've been getting a ton of questions on whether or not it's worth it and what to buy, so I figured I'd try to answer that for each and every one of you finally. And before we get too far involved, if you could do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell. We appreciate your guys' support, and if you feel so inclined, we have a new Patreon, the link's down below. If you don't, no big deal. But I do want to answer whether or not I think it's worth buying this hardware and collecting for it. Granted, it's your money and you need to make that ultimate decision, but I figured I can give you some tips and tricks to decide what you think is best. Off the top, the Panasonic FC35S kiosk is going to be the most versatile piece of hardware you can get for the console side, and it's probably the easiest to find, which is not to say it's actually easy to get. They don't come up that often, but they have been selling more, and I think that might be because I've been showing them on my channel a lot. But it's the closest you can get to the console variant that will actually play any software, because compatibility with software is a bit of an issue, but the Panasonic FC35S will play pretty much all the diverse demos. It'll play IMSA Racing perfectly fine. Granted, it's an almost complete game. It's got a full set of tracks, it's got a fully featured menu, but it is not finished. And one of the major things that didn't get finished was the driving controls. They are quite erratic, and it is pretty easy to put yourself into the wall until you get good at it. So while it is a fully featured game, it is not finished, so it's not going to be some revelatory product. You can also play the little M2 shooter 2D demo. It's good for like 2 minutes. It's not a huge amount of content. And then you can play the diverse demos that I've talked about and shown, like Iron Blood, the M2 enhanced version, and then a couple different alphas for it. Again, it's fun to play, it's fun to check out, but none of these games are finished. You have to kind of decide whether or not it's worth your money to play these different types of demos, because there is no one piece of software for the kiosk units that's going to be a fully featured game. And considering that those kiosk units sell for between $2,000 to $4,000 depending on completeness, do you really want to spend that much money to play something like Pon Pon Land, an Elder Care game? I don't know. Maybe you do. Maybe you're a hardcore collector. I just do it because I had it pre-ordered back in the day and it was canceled, and I've wanted one ever since. And that M2 demonstration demo that I released that was written up in Eurogamer will also run on the FC35. But do keep in mind, all these things I'm showing you are not finished. Some are close, some are very far away. But whatever you do, unless you want it just to look at it, the FC21S kiosk unit does not play any of the software. It has an encrypted BIOS and the disks need to be signed, and I don't have the ability to sign the disks yet, so I get a lot of emails from people saying, why won't it play? And that's because it was never supposed to. Now on the arcade side of things, you're going to get a lot more bang for your buck, and you're going to get 5 finished gaming experiences. So if you really want an M2 and you want to play games, I can't recommend the arcade hardware enough compared to the kiosk console, because there's 5 games and they're completely finished and they're really fun games. The hardware is relatively reliable and I know how to fix pretty much anything, so if you have any questions and I haven't already made a video on it, definitely just ask and I'm happy to help. For arcade stuff, if you've never collected it before, you do need some sort of super gun to be able to get these to play in your home with a power supply, and you're going to need a lot of different diverse cables, JAMA harnesses, decide whether you want SCART or RGB. There's a lot of steps involved, but it's not too much, and it's been written about thoroughly on how to play arcade games at home, because you can play the light gun games on a PVM as well, and it gives you a lot of different options as to what you want to play. Now on the arcade game side, I'll kind of break down the 5 options and what I think about them. To start, we have Battle Tryst, which is a fully 3D fighting game, and it ranges from good to great. In single player mode, you're not going to get a ton out of it like any other fighting game, but if you get this game on with friends that really enjoy 3D fighters, it's a really fun game and you're going to have almost infinite replayability on it. Now, Evil Knight is one of my favorite games on the platform. It definitely is very similar to House of the Dead, but it is as good as that game. So if you enjoy those type of light gun shooters, if you're a House of the Dead fan, you're going to have a lot of fun with this. It's got a lot of replayability, branching paths, different endings, and like all the different arcade games, it's been finished, so you can actually get a full experience. Now on the sports side, you have one option, and if you're a fan of soccer, you're definitely going to be happy. I don't love the sport, but I like this game, and that's Heat of 1198, or as it's known in Japan, the World Soccer Championship. Playing this game in single player mode, there's a ton of challenge, but if you have a second person playing with you and you get a good match going, it is a ton of fun. It's probably the rarest game to find, but rarity doesn't equate to value in this instance. I got my PCB out of Japan for $50. Cost more to ship it than it did to buy it, and it was fully featured. Now, we have another light gun game on the platform as well, and that's Total Vice, and compared to the horror elements of Evil Knight, this is your classic kind of Dirty Harry style shooter, and again, it's a lot of fun. Unfortunately, there are no hidden endings or branching paths, so it's a little bit more linear than Evil Knight is, but if you like these type of games like Lethal Enforcers from Konami, you're definitely going to enjoy this game as well. And again, you can find these for pretty cheap. I mean, I have them 5 boards of these, ranging from free to having paid $200, so it's not really that expensive. And then for a shmup, you have Tobe Polystars, which is definitely my favorite game on the platform. It's super cute, it's colorful, the soundtrack's awesome, it's got infinite replayability because you can try to beat your high score, do a 1 credit clear of the game. It's the most expensive by far. It's going to cost you around $1,000 now, but you can get it. And there's just a ton to collect for the arcade platform. There's a couple discs in here that don't go for it, but there's so many different revisions, and getting the original disc is a lot of fun. But I will say that it definitely comes with an expense. You need the light guns for Total Vice and Evil Knight, and thankfully they are interchangeable between the two, but sometimes they're not working, so you need to be able to read schematics and fix these guns because buying them fully working is expensive. All these systems are backed by a real-time clock chip. 3 of the 5 games have them, so sometimes they do need to be replaced and reprogrammed because 3 of the 5 games will not boot without that real-time clock chip functioning. So there is a little bit of a technical issue with M2. It's quite reliable and they are fixable, but you need to know how that works. So if we take a look here, we have all the tools we need to convert the boards, because not all the boards are going to play all the games, unfortunately, and I will tell you which ones are which. But you do have 2 different BIOS, one for Total Vice and Tobe Polystars, and another for the rest, and that is socketed, so you can interchange them, which is super nice. But to swap games, you need to do a little bit of hex editing on the disk image to reflash the EEPROM on the arcade board itself. I've got videos, I'll link them below, but basically, if you want to buy a board that plays everything, you want an Evil Knight board, a Heat of 11 board, or a Battle Tryst board. If you just want to play Total Vice, you can also play Tobe Polystars, and if you just want Tobe Polystars, that individual PCB only plays itself because it has half the amount of RAM. So you do need to be aware when you're buying things. You can convert one game to another, but you have to have the right hardware to be able to convert it over. So don't buy the wrong thing and end up disappointed in the end. Because the #1 email I get about the 3DO M2 is someone who's already bought hardware and it's not doing what they want. And the issue being is that they bought the wrong piece of hardware, and at this point in time, it'll never do what you want. I've had 2 different people say they bought a Panasonic FC35S kiosk, the one that looks like the console, and it won't play IMSA Racing. And the issue is, it never will until we learn how to sign the disk for the encryption. And it's not something I'm even working on, and I'm probably the only one that works on the M2, so I don't want people to go out, buy expensive equipment, and then be disappointed as to what it won't do. So if you have any questions whatsoever, please just email me or send me a message, leave me a comment below. I'm happy to help you guys, because what I don't want is for this equipment to disappear into closets because someone's disappointed it didn't do what they thought. Short of that, that's whether or not you should collect for the 3DO M2. It's totally up to you. It is not a cheap hobby. It's not the most expensive stuff you can buy, but it's definitely going to cost you money. So you need to decide, do you want it? Do you not want it? Short of that, thanks so much for watching. Like I said, if you could do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like, subscribe, ring that notification bell. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. Otherwise, we'll see you guys on Sunday and Tuesday for more videos. And if you have any other M2 questions, I'm always here to chat. Bye-bye.